Oh, welcome back. I'm Biola Alabi.
And I'm Tundra Abiola.
It has always been a point of concern anytime her citizens are arrested or indicted for offenses bordering on hard drugs anywhere in the world, even when such a thing happens here at home. It is no less embarrassing in the past week, however, a syndicate that specializes in planting hard drugs in the luggage of unsuspecting passengers was busted by operatives of the National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency at the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano, northwest Nigeria. To help us shed some light on how exactly this happened, we have been able to get a hold of Ambrose Umoru, Commander of Narcotics and Commander of the NDLEA Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano. He is the officer in charge of the operation at the airport, and he is here to take a look at the import of this development on the agency's ongoing crusade against hard drugs. Mr. Umoru, welcome to the program. I'm Commander.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to start by really asking you to help us understand what happened. In reading this story, I kept on being baffled. And then in reading the fact that people were arrested, people were tried, and people are losing their lives, I think people at home are confused. The more I read about these stories, the more confused I got. I just would like you to sort of walk us through how this could have happened and what actually happened.
Thank you very much. Well, to start with, I want to say that as security operatives, we're always conscious of insider threats in our operations. And so, at Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, our officers are always on the guard for people who may likely want to sabotage our efforts. Well, let me start by saying that as far back as 2017, precisely in May 2017, we got a report that 2 Nigerians were arrested in Saudi Arabia for alleged possession of tramadol. And then when we investigated that matter, we found out that those 2 Nigerians were actually innocent, and that some 2 airline officials and 2 clearing agents masterminded the planting of luggage containing tramadol in their luggage. And so when that investigation was conducted, we packaged our report and sent it to our chairman, chief executive, who in turn, of course, with the federal government, the report was sent to the Saudi authorities. And those 2 Nigerians were released, and they returned home. Not long after that, precisely in May 2017 again, there was another case of some officials of airline handling company that colluded with a passenger to ferry narcotic drugs, this time ephedrine, 25 kg to be precise, through their gates to the tarmac, using their official vehicle, through their gates to the tarmac of the airport, and then loaded this luggage into the aircraft. But we got a tip-off, and we seized that drug, arrested the suspect that was supposed to travel with that drug. Then the 4 officials of 2 of airline handling, and then 2 clearing agents were arrested, the 4 of them plus the passenger. They were charged to court, and they were convicted and jailed to various jail terms. Some of them got 3 years, 4 years, for the officials of the handlers, and then, of course, the clearing agents. So we felt that something was wrong. And we said, okay, let us try in the airport, in Kano Airport, to sensitize the airport community on this emerging trend. So in November of that same year, we organized a sensitization workshop and invited all the airline handlers, or the airline officials, the security agencies, and various people, stakeholders in the community, in the airport community. We try to sensitize them on the dangers of getting involved in assisting drug couriers to ferry drugs either in or out of the country through the airport. So we felt that we have done something substantial. Apart from that, we tried to step up our security measures. Not until this December 2018 that this very incident that we're talking about now occurred, precisely on the 26th of December 2016, 2018. That fateful day, the person in question, one Zainab Aliyu, was traveling with the mother and her other sister. And they were in the airport with one luggage each. And when they got to the check-in point, check-in counter, the personnel at that point now generated extra tags using their names each. They generated 3 extra tags and tags different luggage that do not belong to them on each of their own luggage. And so the Zainab had a luggage attached to her original one. Her mother had one attached to her own, and the other sister had one attached to her. So incidentally, when they traveled and got to Saudi Arabia, they were not aware. So when they got there, they cleared the luggage which they officially presented for tagging, and then went to their hotel rooms. Only for later in the night, the police busted the hotel room of Zainab with the mother, and they asked for her, and asked her and told her that she had another luggage on claim in the airport. And she said, no, she just came with one luggage, and this is her own luggage. They should search. They insisted and took her there, and then that luggage that was left had his name. And when they opened it, they found out that 2,000 tablets of tramadol tablets were concealed into other items that were packed in that luggage. And that was how they arrested her, took her in. But of course, immediately the mother alerted the husband here in Nigeria, who ran to our office the following day and laid a complaint. And that's how we started investigation. And upon that investigation, we even arrested 10 officials of the airline handlers, some airline officials, some clearing agents. And upon our discreet investigation, we now found out that 6 of them were found to be implicated. Among those 6 of them, one was from, is the staff of an airline handling company. 3 of them are clearing agents, and 2 other ones are staff of checkpoint security that are involved in the whole process of checking in luggage. So we packaged our reports and then forwarded it to our chairman chief executive. And of course, we charged them to court immediately. The matter was charged to the Federal High Court in Kano. And as we speak now, the trial is ongoing. So immediately the report was forwarded to the chairman chief executive. Of course, the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was alerted. And then, of course, a report or a letter was made to the Saudi authorities showing the innocence of Zainab, who was the only one that had tramadol contained in the luggage that was attached to her own luggage. So we want to believe that the negotiation is ongoing, and I can categorically tell you that the agency management is making arrangements to very soon visit Saudi Arabia to ensure that this innocent girl is released from this crime she did not know anything about. So that's the position of things now.
Well, I think that the NDLEA has to be given plaudits for this investigation, your swift action, and it challenges the perception that nothing works in Nigeria. Yes. You complain, it falls on deaf ears. So thank you for the work that you do. And we hope in Zainab Aliyu's case that you record the same success as you did last year with the case that you had the Saudi government withdraw. But at this point, how do you go about trying to restore public confidence, not just in Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano, airports all over the country? Yeah. How do people feel safe checking in luggage? How do we trust those who are handling our luggage? It's scary.
Okay, thank you. But before I answer that your question, let me also inform Nigerians that on that fateful day that Zainab was arrested, there was still another Nigerian named Ibrahim Abubakar who had another luggage tagged to him, and he was also arrested in Saudi Arabia with the same amount of, same quantity of drugs, 2,000 tablets of tramadol found in his luggage. So when we received that report too, we joined the two reports, Zainab's case with that of Ibrahim Abubakar. We did all of them together. So as we are talking now, the two of them are the ones that they are in Saudi Arabia now, that effort is being made to make sure that they are brought back safely to Nigeria. That is just to make clarification. So, but going to your question, I still want to say and warn Nigerians that it is very important that passengers traveling out of this country or even coming in do not accept luggage from anybody that they are not very sure of. And even in that case, if they are to take any luggage, that luggage must be packed in their presence so that they will see the content of the luggage they're carrying for anyone. Otherwise, if somebody gives you a luggage, you don't know the content, anything can happen. Now, talking about confidence in the Nigerian airport, I think that even in Kano International Airport, we have since then, even before then, we are making effort. We have since then stepped up our operational activities. I want to assure Nigerians that our Nigerian airports are safe. They are safe because the various security measures that are put in place are really very efficient and they are working. Now, when this incident happened in Kano, for instance, we said, okay, we try to investigate why should people indulge in this kind of criminal act. And we found out that in Kano, we have some busy days where you have maybe 4 airlines screening passengers almost simultaneously. In such case, the departure hall, which is not so large, it becomes very crowded, and then it becomes not very easy for security operatives to really perform their functions efficiently. So because of that, we now said, okay, fine. In Kano Airport now, passengers, especially on those busy days of Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, passengers are made to now enter the departure hall in batches of 10, 5, as the case may be, for proper screening before their luggage can be checked in. So with that, anybody that doesn't have any incriminating item in his luggage has no fear at all. So the airport is safe. And I want to believe that this same procedure goes on in other Nigerian airports too. That's one of the measures we've taken. Then the second measure is that any passenger traveling outside of this country, when you get to the airport, the airline officials will be made to issue you a form. That form, you fill the number of the luggage you have. If you have 1 or 2 or 3, you fill it. You have a copy, the official will sign, you have your own copy, the airline official will have their own copy. And then when you travel, if anything happens, of course, it's already documented that this is the number of luggage you travel with. In that way, we are just trying to ensure that the airline officials are not giving rooms to manipulate. Because what we got to know is that in the process of trying to check in, a passenger appears, they can take your details into the system, generate a tag, then they will delete it, and then re-enter your details again and generate a second tag, which they can now use one of them to tag extra load that they may have to your own. If, for instance, the kilogram, the weight of the luggage you have is not up to what the airline requires. So this is what they have been doing. So, but we try to make sure that that does not happen again by putting up some of these measures. So I think there is no fear. The security operatives in all the airports are working, and we believe that passengers should feel free to travel through Nigerian airports to any part of this world, because we will ensure that as they leave here or even when they come in, this proper screening will be done, and anybody found with incriminating items will always be arrested.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And once again, well done for your investigation. But I want to ask you, in your investigation, two questions. The first question is, how long have these people been operating? And the second question is, I have is, how wide was this case? And so how many cases do you still have pending, either investigation or where people are currently being held in Saudi Arabia or other countries? Did you find this happening in other countries? And how are those people being reached out to?
Okay, you recall that I started by telling you an incident that happened in 2017, and then two incidents that happened in 2017. But the point to be made is that the people involved in that, the one discovered in 2017, are not the same people that we have now arrested. They are a different set of people. But you know that these people are people that have been working in the airport for over a long period of time. Some of them are personnel of the airline handlers, some are clearing agents. And of course, it's possible they may have been trying their luck in the past, but since that 2017, the heat has been on them. And we want to believe that they have not really been into it. The only thing is that in recent time, they try to change some tactics, their tactics. As we are talking now, only last week, we made an arrest of a 72-year-old man who knows nothing. He practically could not even speak English, but he was convinced by somebody that he should go to Saudi Arabia to perform the Lesser Hajj. And then they got a passport for him, got a ticket for him, and brought him to Kano, lodged him in a hotel, arranged his luggage, and in the process they planted 600 grams of tramadol and then 250 grams of diazepam in his luggage, and then brought him to the airport gate and asked him to enter taxi and go on board. So in the process of our officers doing the screening, we discovered that this old man had this consignment of drugs. And when we asked him, he said somebody facilitated his travel to Saudi Arabia. Luckily for us, we put our men on ground and we were able to arrest the person that sent him. So now, what they are now trying to do is to use innocent Nigerians, old people or sickly people, to put drug into their luggage so that they can just go, because believing that the security operative will not really focus in our profiling, will not be able to focus on early people. Maybe they would think that they will not carry drugs or things like that. So this is part of the way they are now shifting their modus operandi. Okay, so for us, the case we know. I've told you that in 2017, 2 Nigerians were free from Saudi Arabia. Then the other ones were arrested, 4 people that were jailed. Then this one now that has happened is the case we have on point. For now, we do not have any other case that is pending that some of these officials that are involved in planting of bags containing drugs on passengers traveling outside of the country. And we don't, for us, we don't have report in other countries of passengers that had traveled through Kano and were arrested in other countries. No, we don't have that report for now.
Okay.
Since you don't have any of those cases in your system at the moment, let's move on to other duties of NDLEA. You've recently announced, NDLEA has recently announced that a successful Operation Shara Miyaju. Can you tell us more about that, where you recorded success in Kano State and reduced the population of drug abusers to just 1%? And what efforts are you making in the other top 3 states, Lagos and Ogun State, for drug abuse?
Yes, you know that Kano is a cosmopolitan town. They have a high concentration of people and many of them are young people that are adventurous. They want to go into various things, including use of drugs, including peddling in drugs. Let me assure you that I'm aware that the state commander in Kano has done some marvelous job. A whole lot of seizure of tramadol had been made in recent time. And then, of course, the agency in the state is collaborating, of course, with the state government in setting up rehabilitation centers, just so that people, the young ones, and even women, because in recent time the involvement of women has been, if you like, on the increase. So to ensure that rehabilitation centers are created so that these young people that are into drugs, women who are into drugs, maybe cough syrup or tramadol, are being rehabilitated. You know that in any big city where you have the population, the level of crime and criminality is always even higher than what we have in the state and the places that have less population. In Lagos, of course, you always know that the problem will be there, but the agency is making effort. The sensitization efforts the agency is making is to ensure that people are aware. People are aware. This issue of tramadol, issue of cough syrup that people are using, it is the agency that put in a public domain so that people will know the effect of these drugs on the youths, on the people that use them. So we are just calling that on the every spirited individual, the philanthropist organization that can help, because nothing stops the individuals or corporate organization from establishing rehabilitation centers, no matter how small, so that some of these people that have this drug problem can be taken care of, because government alone cannot do it. What we have at the moment is basically rehabilitation centers in tertiary health institutions, maybe teaching hospitals or some specialist hospitals. You have drug treatment centers there, but they are not enough because of the number of youths who are involved in drugs. So there is a core mandate of the agency that will continue to do, so that the society will be better off for it.
Thank you for that. One of the things you said earlier was that you did some sensitization programs with airline officials. How do we sensitize potential travelers, especially first-time travelers, to be aware of these type of dangers? What are you using, especially for people that don't probably have access, that don't speak English and can't see this interview? What programs is the NDLEA undertaking to make sure that people are aware as they travel of the danger?
Okay. There are a whole lot of channels, a whole lot of activities we undertake. For instance, now, in Kano, for instance, this is a period where people embark on lesser Hajj, and later in the year, they will go for the main Hajj. And then the NDLEA, in conjunction with the National Hajj Commission, has a committee on public enlightenment. This committee goes from one local government to the other, enlightening people on the need for them to travel without carrying any incriminating items, including drugs. So, and these things are done in the language that the people can understand, in outside language that is generally spoken. So, passengers, even at that, even when they come, for instance, when they're going to Hajj, even when they come to the camp, to Hajj camp, the sensitization is also done there, so that they will know that they're not supposed to go with anything, even when they are to go with medicaments. For those of them who may be on one form of treatment or the other, maybe they're asthmatic or hypertensive, and they have to go with their drugs. We emphasize that those drugs must be in the company of, in the custody of the medical doctor that is accompanying them. It's only when they need them that they can ask the medical doctor for it, so that nothing can be, like medicament or psychotropic drugs can be found in their possession, and they have been complying. So the information is there. The information is there. Then the second thing is that also even the regular passengers, we try to, we have discussed with the airline officials to educate their passengers, even at the point of selling their tickets. Educate their passengers, for instance, arrive on time for screen of your luggage, make sure you don't carry any criminal items such as drugs, you know. And then we encourage them to print leaflets, information leaflets, and put in the ticket that they are giving to their passengers, just so that the passengers can know what they are not supposed to do. And for those of them who, of course, those who are not literate enough, you find out that the clearing agents are the ones that purchase ticket for them. So they are also asked to educate their passengers, you know, about the implication of carrying any items that they do not know anything about. Even in the course of screening and examination of luggage in during departures or arrival, when we see that a passenger has a virgin passport, maybe he has not traveled before, we pay special attention to the person because, for instance, we're interested in knowing why is he traveling. Where is he going to? Is he going to a source country? It will be of interest to us. We want to know why he's going there and things like that. So we make sure that we single them out to enlighten them to know the implication of taking anything that will be incriminated. Because what we're talking about here is the image of the country. Because when they go outside of this country and then they are found with drug, it is the whole country that they will be calling Nigeria. Nobody will be calling that passenger's name alone. So we try as much as possible to do that, to ensure that people do not just indiscriminately carry drugs outside or inside this country.
What about sensitization with regards to the abuse of tramadol and cough syrup? Because they can be used beneficially and then abused. And sometimes people fall into drug addiction without knowing that they've crossed the line. How does NDLEA go about educating the public?
The sensitization on tramadol and cough syrup and even including other drugs is ongoing because it is one major aspect of the job that NDLEA does. We are to sensitize the general public on the dangers of drug abuse. And given the fact that the current trend, drug of abuse now in some places is the cough syrup and tramadol, the sensitization is on. Well, going on radio and television may be capital intensive, but we still do. At the state level, you find out that every state command is always featuring their officers on radio, on television, to sensitize the people on the dangers of drug abuse. And of course, in conjunction with NAPMED or Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, they organize sensitization workshop just so that people can be enlightened on the dangers of using these drugs. So it is ongoing. It is a sensitization that is ongoing. It's not something that you can just stop in, after a time. It is ongoing, and we keep encouraging parents. Parents at any fora we find ourselves in, we encourage parents to always check what their children are doing. Check, of course, if your child is behaving in a way that you're not sure of, you can report. And of course, I'm aware that in the state command of Kano, there is a mini rehabilitation center where those that use drugs are being cancelled and, for a period of time and released. And they also receive clients from outside. Some parents do bring their children, or even husbands bring their wives who may be abusing drugs, and they are cancelled and then released, after they get better. So the sensitization is on, but it is capital intensive, and we just want to appeal that everybody should put hands on deck to ensure that we mount sustained campaign activities on the radio, on the TV, especially in the language that everybody can understand, so that with time, this problem will be reduced to the barest minimum.
Thank you so much. My last question to you is, you had mentioned that you are planning a trip to Saudi Arabia. I wanted to know, during that trip, what are some of the things that you want to achieve and some of the cooperation you'll be seeking while you're in Saudi Arabia?
Well, there is a top management of the agency, of course, in collaboration with the federal government of Nigeria. We are planning a visit to Saudi authority. We already have an existing memorandum of understanding on drug-related issues with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but that document needs to be renewed. It needs to be strengthened to cover so many areas. For instance, this issue of, okay, we're talking about now finding drug on a passenger that, from investigation, the person is exonerated. We want that kind of process to be treated expeditiously so that the innocent passenger that arrives in Saudi Arabia does not suffer. Now, when, for instance, again, when such people are arrested and they are in custody of the Saudi authorities, they should have access to their relations and then even lawyers, so that their cases can be expeditiously handled. You know, and then of course, if we arraigned these people that these 6 people that were arrested involved in this case of Zainab, we charge them to court. There are some documents that we will require from them for a successful prosecution of this case. We need to strengthen our relations so that if we make any request for such documents, we can always get them to facilitate the trial in court. There are so many aspects that need to be fine-tuned, and of course, government need to get to the Saudi authority to understand that these Nigerians who did not know anything about these drugs are given reprieve and you know, released so that they can be returned to the country. This is what I think that this team that will be going to Saudi Arabia intend to achieve.
Well, once again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the work you do. We, you know, more grease to your elbow, to you and your team, really. We really want to commend you for the work you're doing. Thank you so much for being here today to help us understand how this could have happened and what you're doing about it. It's time now for a short break. When we return, Charles Owaku, our Rise News analyst and producer, will be joining us to review the top newspaper headlines from across the country. Stay with us.